Welcome to The Explainer. We spend our whole lives searching for something, right? Happiness, security, a sense of meaning. But what if we're all looking in the wrong places? Today, we're diving into an ancient story that lays out this very problem as a choice, a journey that literally changed the world. All right, let's get right into it. This one line from the Buddha himself basically sets the stage for his entire life story. It presents this fundamental choice, and not just for monks, but for every single one of us. What kind of search is your life all about? It's really a question of what we're chasing and why. So, what exactly are these two different paths? The Buddha explains them with this incredible clarity. One is kind of our default setting, the path we all just naturally fall into. The other, well, it's a lot more demanding, but the payoff is infinitely greater. And the difference couldn't be more stark. The ignoble search, the Ariyapariyesanā, is all about chasing things that, by their very nature, just don't last. Our family, our stuff, our money, even our own bodies, they're all gonna change and fade. But the noble search, the Ariyapariyesanā, is the quest for something that's totally beyond that whole cycle, a state of ultimate peace he called nibbana. So long before he was the Buddha, the awakened one, he was known as a bodhisattva, a being who was destined for enlightenment. And he found himself smack in the middle of this dilemma, living a life of total luxury, but feeling this deep, nagging sense of dissatisfaction. I mean, he looked at his own life, a life most people would kill for, and he saw a trap. He realized that he himself was subject to getting old and dying, yet here he was chasing things like status and relationships that were also doomed to fade away. He saw it was a dead end. So he made this absolutely radical choice to just leave it all behind and go all in on the noble search. And he didn't just wander off into the forest aimlessly. No, he sought out the most famous, most respected spiritual teachers of his time. He was determined to learn everything they had to offer, to see if their answers were the answer. First, he found his way to Alara Kalama. The Bodhisattva was, a ridiculously good student, and he mastered his teacher's system in no time, reaching this incredibly deep meditative state called the sphere of nothingness. But even there, he realized, wait, this isn't it. It was a temporary peace, for sure, but it wasn't the permanent end of suffering he was looking for. So he kept going. Next, he found Uddaka Ramaputta, whose teaching was even more refined, even more subtle. And again, he mastered it completely, attaining this state called the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception, which is a state so high it's right on the very edge of consciousness. But still, that same insight hit him. This is also just another temporary state, not the unshakable freedom I'm after. And this is such a huge moment. Think about it. He had reached the absolute summit of what this spiritual world had to offer at the time, and he found it wasn't enough. He realized that if he was going to find the real answer, he couldn't follow someone else's map anymore. He was going to have to draw his own. So his search then turned completely inward. He journeyed to a place called Uruvela, found a peaceful spot under a tree, and made a promise to himself. He would not get up from that spot until he found what he was looking for. This was it, the final push. And right there, through his own incredible effort, he did it. He broke through. He went beyond everything he'd ever been taught and saw for himself the reality he'd been seeking, the unborn, a supreme security from all the things that cause suffering. He had actually found it. He gave this reality a name, nibbana. And this wasn't some kind of heaven or a temporary feeling of bliss. It was the complete end of the cycle of suffering, a peace so profound that once you find it, it can never, ever be taken away. The noble search was over. Can you imagine, in that moment of awakening, this knowledge just flooded his mind. He knew with 100% certainty that he was free. The cycle was broken for good. The quest was done. He wasn't a bodhisattva anymore. He was the Buddha. But here's where the story takes this really fascinating turn, something you might not expect. After achieving this ultimate goal, the Buddha's first thought was actually not to teach anyone. He figured what he'd found was just too deep, too subtle for other people to get. Yeah, he looked out at the world and just saw everyone totally caught up in the ignoble search, chasing pleasure, chasing power. He thought, man, if I try to teach this profound truth, the Dhamma, and nobody understands, it's just going to be exhausting for me. He was basically ready to just live out the rest of his life in peace. But then, the story goes, a high-level deity named Brahma Sahampati saw the Buddha's hesitation and freaked out. He appeared before him and just begged him to teach, saying the world we lost without him. He argued that, sure, a lot of people might be stuck in the mud of their attachments, but there are others who are like lotus flowers right at the surface of the water, just waiting for the sun, the Dhamma, to help them bloom. And that plea, it changed everything. The Buddha looked out at the world again, but this time with his Buddha eye, his enlightened vision. And he saw that Brahma was right. He saw the lotuses. And out of this immense compassion, he agreed to teach. He decided to open the doors to the deathless for anyone who wanted to walk through them. So, to really hammer home the stakes of these two different searches, the noble and the ignoble, the Buddha offered one last, really powerful image that anyone could understand. He said that a person lost in the ignoble search, someone who is always grasping for more, is like a deer that stepped right into a hunter's trap. It thinks it's just enjoying the bait, but really it's helpless, totally at the mercy of the hunter, who he calls Mara, the embodiment of suffering and death itself. But the alternative? It's just a brilliant contrast. He says the person who has completed the noble search is like a deer that roams free deep in the forest, totally confident and at ease, because it is far, far beyond the hunter's reach. Now that is the kind of safety and security he discovered. So, at the end of the day, this incredible story isn't just a piece of ancient history. It's a mirror. It kind of forces us to look at our own lives and ask, what am I really searching for? Is it something that's just going to fade away? And is it possible there's another way to search?